Yay, it's showtime. Hello, lovely people.
How are you guys?
Thank you for joining us. How is everyone doing? Okay, if you're joining us, just let us know where you're joining from.
Yeah.
Okay, feel free to interact with us, ask your questions. Our guests are ready. Okay, we'll be getting as much as we can from them today.
Absolutely.
There are different parts to their lives. Okay, but we'll get out as much as we can within the time we have.
Yes,
right?
yes,
And
yes.
they are a phenomenal couple. Really, really, like if you follow them on their handles, later on you can look on the description box to put their handles there.
Everything will be there.
There's so much to learn from them. They're people who are very intentional about what they do. Okay, they give a lot of attention to their marriage as well. And we just thought, we've been watching them for a while. Really phenomenal. When I say there's so much to learn from them, you won't be disappointed. Okay, if you just follow them on any of their handles. And we just thought, yes, we would get them on today to tell us more about their lives.
Fantastic.
Okay, so if you're new to our channel, this is Foundation for Family Affairs. And at Foundation for Family Affairs, our mission is to connect hearts and raise healthy families. Do you want to throw some context?
Well,
while we get our guests ready.
Yes, one key thing that we focus on, generally there is this narrative that marriages don't last, that marriage is a bad idea, that people should figure out a different way to reconstruct marriage. But so our goal is basically to change that narrative, the negative disposition people have about marriage, and so from time to time, we bring up different topics that we talk about. Sometimes that we bring people who share fantastic values, people who model the kind of values that we see, the type of marriage that we see. And that's one good thing about the couple that we're bringing. So before we bring them in, I'd like to just ask, how do you describe them? I see them as people that are intentional, like you said, humble.
Yes.
I'm telling you, deep, enriching, people who think about impacting the lives of people. And then they're going to be talking about a lot of them. What will you say about them?
Oh, you stole my word. Intentional. I think they're romantic.
Fantastic.
Yes. And when we say romantic, we'll just say this very quickly. Our definition of romance is the little but consistent things you do on a daily basis in pursuit of your spouse's heart, attention, and happiness.
Absolutely.
Okay, and we see Sir Chris just lavish that on his wife from time to time. He spoils her. Let's not say too much. Let them tell us about themselves. So we will get them on to join us. Okay, we'll give them some minutes.
So basically, that's one of the key reasons why we are bringing them on. We had a chat with them some time ago, and we told them, no, guys, you guys have the kind of stories that we like to tell. We like to use stories to kind of explain to people, tell people the beauty of marriage, that marriage is beautiful. Marriage is like any other institution. There are principles you need to abide by. It doesn't matter your office, it doesn't matter your role, it doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter your talent, it doesn't matter your gender. There are basic principles that are universal. Anybody from any culture applies these principles, you are going to get certain results. The principles are the same, but the application and the practice might be different. All right, so, and that's one key thing that one of the things we're looking at today. So the idea behind intimacy and romance and intimacy stories, basically, like we said earlier on, using stories of people, couples who model the kind of principle, the kind of ideals that we are looking at, and using them to tell the story, to share with people. I mean, we may not have had it fantastic, but this is our journey so far. This is how far. These are the milestones. These are the things we did as strategic points. This is how we're able to manage long distance. All right, there was a time we lived separately. How were we able to navigate these kind of challenges? So that's one of the key things that this couple is going to bring for us today. So please post your comments in the post. Ask your questions in the comment section. Tell us where you are viewing from. Let's let's interact. Let's make it a two-way thing. Okay, that's one thing that we would like to look at. Okay, so let's go on.
Okay, our guests are having a technical glitch, but they will be with us shortly.
Yep.
Okay, but while they're trying to sort that out, I just thought we should talk about intimacy for a bit.
Absolutely.
So, what's intimacy? so we can give some context.
Generally, when people talk about intimacy, what most people think about is sex. All right, so but for us, intimacy is beyond that. Intimacy starts from creating the right ambience, creating that ambience where your spouse can be themselves, where your spouse can be open to share their dreams, share their aspirations, share their fears, talk about things that you are looking at doing without the fear of someone of their spouse laughing at them or belittling them. So that's one key thing for us. Intimacy is about, and we have different types of intimacy. We have sexual intimacy, we have physical intimacy, we have financial intimacy, where people become vulnerable and open to each other in terms of how much they earn, what are their financial aspirations, how they want to manage it, basically.
Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, I think our guests are ready now, so we'll just get them on. Yay. There we go.
There we go.
Finally. Thank you for coming on. And to our viewers, it's Shola's birthday today. You can see her sitting there looking so beautiful. Okay, so when I thought about it, I was like, wow, this just goes to speak about her life. Okay, and it's one of purpose. I'm sure she's put purpose over pleasure today to do this. And I'm so sure you'll be enjoying your day after now. But thank you so much for graciously being willing to do this. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so tell us a bit about yourselves so our viewers can feel you.
All right. So my name is Chris Chukwunyere, and this is my beautiful wife, Sola Chris Chukwunyere. And we're both based in Nigeria. We're married, obviously. We're actually very passionate about marriage. We're passionate about relationships. We're also both public health practitioners. We are also both ordained ministers of the gospel. And we run 24 Carats Family Foundation. And through this organization or movement, our desire is to help build model marriages and model relationships that would influence culture and transform societies. That's basically what it is. We also run a nonprofit organization called Inspire World International Foundation. And Inspire World International Foundation is an indigenous nonprofit that helps to provide access to healthcare, help to build self-sustaining society or communities, and then also help to raise or build young social impact leaders to provide community solutions and also to be able to become nation builders. So basically, that's what we do, or who we are, in a nutshell. So, do you want to add anything?
I think you've covered it.
So why are these important to you guys? You've talked about leadership parts of what you do, constantly helping people to build, helping people to become leaders. And then you also talked about the family parts of what you do, influencing culture. I really like that. Yeah, influencing culture. So why is this important to you both?
I think primarily the reason why it's important to us is because we see, almost on a daily basis, the problems with Nigeria as a country, with the society, with the the challenges that people face, and then the problems sometimes, when you read about marriages or relationships and some of the challenges that people are going through, and then you reflect on what you have and you think, how can we contribute? How can we make people see that it shouldn't be as hard or as difficult as they are either experiencing or as they have heard from other people's experiences? We see how even in Nigeria the divorce rate is rising, and God just laid it in our hearts that I think early, even before we got married, he helped us understand what marriage really is, his plan, his desire, his intention for when he created the institution of marriage. And we thought, if God has helped us understand this, we owe it to everyone to help people understand that marriage can be sweet, marriage can be blissful, it can be a bed of roses, So I think that's why it's important to us, because we feel the pain that other people feel. And then also in terms of building leaders or community development, rather than sitting down and complaining about the issue and complaining about the problem, because sometimes when you have the conversations like with people, you already have solutions in your mind. When you discuss the problem of Nigeria, you will just say, oh, I wish I could just advise the president or advise this governor, because you have the solutions in you. So why not do the bit that you can? Because obviously you're not at that point close to the governor or to the president. So rather than complain about the problem, be a part of the solution. And so that's what we are trying to do.
Yeah. Just to add to what she has said, before we got married, one of the things that we asked ourselves was, what is the purpose of our marriage?
Yes.
What is the gift that this marriage has been designed or destined to give to the world? In what way can this union be a blessing, to this world and add value to this world? Because we believe that every marriage has a purpose. Every marriage has a reason why God has decided that a man and a woman should come together. Why did we come together?
And it's beyond just the two.
Yeah, so we didn't just come together because we love each other, we want to get married. That's one of it. But then having to understand that we have a reason, or there's a purpose to this marriage, there's a purpose to this relationship. How do we now ensure that we express that purpose and make that gift available to the world? And that's why the things that we do, they are tied to these things. It's about, okay, God, what do you want us to do? Okay, you know what? You guys can help build model marriages that people can actually look at. And then it's not just about you being happy. It's about influencing cultures, influencing those things that are wrong, and then transforming society through your relationship. And it's not just about us, it's about also building other people or helping other people to be able to achieve that. And that's also part of the things that we do with our nonprofit organization in the area of just producing, helping people to have access to healthcare and raising young leaders, because we can't do it alone. We have to raise other people who will be a part of it. And one of the things that we believe is that everybody can be great, but we all can be great together. So everybody can be great, but we all can be great together. And that's why we are doing this. We're not just doing it because of ourselves. We want to engage other people, and ensure that together we all can be great. We can build better marriages and relationships. We can build a better society. That's basically,
Wow. Wow. I feel like you guys just keep talking, honestly, because you are speaking from your heart. You're speaking from what you truly know, what you have handled, what you are living out. And that's one thing that gives power to what you're saying. Fantastic.
Okay, before we get on, I've got people saying hello to you, and someone asking, where's the party? Yeah, happy birthday to you, woman. And then someone here is just saying, well, we always have the recommendation. Good job. Okay, just appreciating you for the great work you do.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So I was just going to say that both of you talked about, even before you got married, you started thinking along this way before, God started speaking to you about what you're going to do together. So to ask the question, how did you guys meet, and how did you know that you were meant for each other?
Okay, you should do that.
Okay, so I'll start by saying we met while fulfilling purpose. We met while on our individual missions. So I used to volunteer for an organization called Pro Health International. We, as a volunteer, taking free healthcare to communities, to rural communities. And he at that time was working with Pro Health. And so they came on a mission to the community, not just the state, but the community where I was serving my National Youth Service Corps program at the time. And that's where we met. We met, while on a mission. And I remember the first day that I saw him. That was, I always say that that's not the day I met you, because the day I met you was a different day. But the first day we saw each other, I went to visit the advanced team that had come on the project, and he was there. We didn't click at that time because he didn't say a word to me other than hello. So I didn't get to meet him, Chris, the person that he is. I just saw him. I thought, okay, who is this person, But the day I met him was on the first day of the project during morning devotion, because it was a Christian mission. And so every morning the volunteers would gather and have devotion. And so on that day, he stood up to contribute to the Bible study. And I heard him speak, and I thought, what manner of man is this? And
wow.
So that's and on that week, yes, I always say this whenever we tell the story. I had a huge crush on him because the way that he spoke about God, the way that he talked about things in general, I just thought this person, he was like the male version of me, and even an advanced male version of me, so I fell for him. And then but we were just friends on that mission. Of course I had to let go of my crush, because you cannot at that point, when you're crushing on someone, begin to try to build a relationship. But what happened was we then built a really good friendship afterwards. I got to know him even better. He got to know me, and I'll let him talk about that part. But in the course of building our friendship, because we were friends for quite a while before we even started officially seeing dating. And every time that we talked to each other or spoke, it was always about the things that it was clear that our purpose were aligned. It was clear that the things that I wanted out of life, and the things that I wanted to do, the things that I was confident, I knew that God had called me to do, it was like I'd met my partner almost immediately, and that was really great. That was really, really great. So that's how we met. Yes. Before we started dating. So you take it from there.
So when we started, we're just friends. I think 2 weeks after we went on that mission, we went on a follow-up outreach kind of to that same community, just a few of the core staff. And we went to the secondary school she was teaching then. So we had a health education that was supposed to go on. So she was up on stage talking to the students. And then I picked her jotter. It was just a normal, just a book that she had kept left by by her seat. And so I picked it. It wasn't like I was looking for anything. I just was flipping through. And then I saw something that was really interesting. It was the things that I want in a man that I want to get married to. It was about 17. 17. Wow. So different things, so many things that was on that list. And I got interested because I really wanted to see what this was, So I went through it. And the first thing that came into my mind was, I can marry this lady. Because it was a description of me. It was like, this is an image of Chris, So I was like, in my mind, I'm like, if this is all the list she has, I actually fit into this criteria. I can marry this lady. That was just the first thought that came into my mind. So it's like when I appeared, I was an image of the things that she had desired. So we became friends. And then we got talking. I really got interested in her because I was impressed with the list, actually, because very few ladies would have such kind of lists. You know, a man that is highly principled, a man, you know, that loves God, a man that speaks in tongues, a man that is full of purpose and vision. You know, those were core things, you know, that speaks about spirituality, about character, about value. It wasn't about, I want a man who is rich and famous, you know, those kind of things. Even though, of course, tall, dark, and handsome was there, you know. So, so I saw that and I felt that, okay, this lady has quality. You know, it wasn't a surface level kind of desire that she had. So I really got interested to get to know her. So we got talking, and I began to really see the kind of person that she was. And then, you know, we were friends for a year. We didn't jump into a relationship immediately. We talked a lot. We're always talking. And that gave us the opportunity to really know each other more and really know that, okay, it looks like this is it, you know. And also because in my previous relationship, I had met someone who was like, you are too principled. You know, I can't deal with this principle and all of that. And now I'm seeing somebody who is saying, I love this one that is principled. You know, so it's like you have someone who fits, you know, and that's why one of the time later as we started talking about fits for marriage, you know, you have someone who really fits. Like a key and a lock, they just fit, they can open, they can close, you know, and it just matches. And that's what we saw with each other. And then we just knew it was, you know how you have, it's a law of recognition. So all of the things that I desired inside of me about the woman I want to be with, I'm seeing it reflect in her. She's seeing the same thing. So we recognized each other, you know, over a period of time that this is the person, you know, there is no two ways about it. And then, you know, we had to say, God, this is what we have in mind. This is what we are praying, you know, what do you say? And God gave us confirmations in terms of, you know, his word and all of that, not even with people, you know, but then we had to sort that ourselves, you know. There are several things that, in fact, we on our own path, we were like, naturally, we shouldn't get married by natural laws and principles. But then we were like, you know what, God, what are you saying? And how do we make this work? And God gave his word and we went ahead, you know, and here we are.
And that for me just showed me that his purpose, his plan is greater than us. So if he wants the two of us together, then you can be sure that, you know, he has already seen the end from the beginning. And I just wanted to add that for every man or woman who is single, before you even, when you get to the point where you know that you're ready to get married, even before you get to that point, but you know, when you get to that point, clarify your values. As a woman, clarify your values. It was so important because that list was, for me, it was at that point, at a point where I was clarifying my values, and I knew that, okay, this is who I am, this is how I, you know, see life, these are my values, and I need someone who shares those values. And so that was what informed that list. It's so important. Otherwise, you would, it's foundational. You have to do that. Yes.
Wow, brilliant. Clarity aids identification. You were clear, and so when you saw it, you knew it was. Okay, so we have people just chiming in here. Someone said, good to be here, enjoying the gist. Relationship Builders Forum said, the list. Yes, in caps. Okay, so we have Franklin and Chema saying, you're favored. She had a crush on you already, bro. You read her diary. Some will be like, you reading my diary? God had it all planned for you. Congratulations to you both. And then we have Relationship Builders Forum saying, I love the way you talk about having principles. This is super important. Okay, and then clarifying your values, really apt. They're just reiterating what you said. Love, Aaron, purpose, clarity, principles, and values. Very important. You see what people are getting out of all you've said. Okay, thank you so much. We're enjoying this.
Amazing. Shaping culture already. You know, one thing I like about what you guys talked about is that though you found more like there was a level of attractiveness from the first time you guys met, And then when you got to hear her also speak, there's an attraction. But you did not build your relationship on that attraction. You built it on friendship. You took time and then you kept knowing each other, talking every day. I liked that emphasis because that's how you got to know the person behind that initial attraction you had. What's she like? What are those values? And then I also like what she said in terms of clarifying your value. Because sometimes when you tell single people that what kind of a woman, man are you looking for? And you're like, I just want a guy that is God-fearing. That's good, but be more clear. Because you said something, the law of recognition. You can only recognize something you've seen before because you've seen it somewhere. You've clarified it. So you guys have already had that clarity. So it was easy for you to see her, to spot her, and it was easy for her because she had clarity. And that was almost the same thing for me. I just had I had a letter list. So when I started having a chat with her, and then this woman looks like the kind of person, although she was calling me my brother there. So when I asked her, she ran away. But that's the same for another day. So, man, so much to learn from you guys, so much to distill the power of friendship, the power of going beyond the surface, the first initial attraction, to build depth. And that's one of the key things that sustains relationship over a period of time, that friendship, that bond.
Okay, so let's talk about the first few years of marriage. What were they like for you?
Okay, the first few years, they were actually amazing. You know how they say the first 5 years of your marriage, can be full of crises. You're trying to get to know each other, and if you guys can just overcome this period, then your marriage will last longer and all of that. We didn't have that. We didn't have it because there are lots of factors that are tied to that. The first thing is, for the both of us, we're people of good character. One of the things that I always share with people is that first, you can have love, have wisdom, and have character, because these things are like the three pillars that build a marriage, that helps to sustain a marriage. You can have all of the knowledge in this world or all of the wisdom in this world. If you don't have character to sustain it, you still have to have issues in that relationship. So for us, as 10 and 11 years, I think one of the things that contributed to the level of character we have is the fact that I got born again at 10. I started building a relationship with God at 10 and getting to know God as my father. She at 11. So there's this consciousness to live right. There's this consciousness to always want to do the right thing, to please God. I think that actually helped us. So as young people, even before we became teenagers, to really begin to build a good character. And I think that helped to contribute to the kind of marriage that we had, or we still have. So we were able to have, first we have character, and then we had wisdom. And we still have wisdom because we studied. We read books, we went for seminars, individually and even as a couple before we got married. We watched a lot of YouTube, videos and all of that. Anything I see that I think will be beneficial to our relationship, I push it to her, to watch and all of that. So that helped us to actually build that level of knowledge and understanding in terms of relationships and marriage. Because it's one thing to have knowledge. You know how it is that you are, for instance, you're a relationship coach. That doesn't make you to build a good marriage or a good relationship. You have knowledge, you may have understanding, but it is the application of these things, which is wisdom, that helps you to build, a good marriage. Solomon will say that by wisdom a house is built, by understanding is established, and by knowledge it is filled with good and precious promises. So for us, we have the love of God, which is not just an ordinary kind of love. It's the agape kind of love that can, push through any circumstance and overcome. So, and then before we got married, we already had agreed that divorce is not an option. It doesn't matter what situation we find ourselves. It doesn't matter what happens. We are in this together. We are committed to this relationship for life. So if you like scatter the whole house, we'll still come back and say, how do we move on from here? So because there is no consciousness or no thoughts that says I can bail out of this relationship, we are committed to make this work. And because of the fact that we had a lot of knowledge, we also spent time to talk a lot before we got married. We had it. In fact, we talked about everything, and that was when we had our fights, not in marriage. Because we told ourselves, you know what? Let's talk about everything now. Let's fight about everything, so we can have better understanding of each other. So that when we get into marriage, that's not when we'll start fighting. So we talked about everything. We fought about everything, but then we had made up our minds and said we are getting married to each other. So whether we are fighting now or not, or having conflicts about things or disagreements about things, is because we want to. It was mostly disagreements. It was because we want to build a better relationship. We want to build a model family. So we would have all the disagreements. We'll agree again. We'll come to a place where we can say, okay, I think this is what we have decided we're going to do. So for instance, when we started talking about having kids, so I said, asked her, how many kids do you want to have? She said she wants to have 2 kids. I'm like, 2 kids? Oh no, I can't have 2 kids. Let's do 3 because I'm an only son. So
wanted 4.
In fact,
we arrived at 3.
So I was excited. I was like, no, let's do. In fact, we can do 4. At least 2 boys, 2 girls is fine. So she said, no way that she's doing 2. I was like, okay, so let's have a conversation around this. She was like, are you the one that will go into the labor room 4 times? I said, what about 3? So I started shifting ground. I said, okay, what about 3? Let's do 3. She said, no, she's only going to go into the labor ward or the delivery room 2 times. I said, okay, so can we have 3 children, but then you go to the delivery room twice? So which means we can have twins and a child. So for us, we're like 2 boys and a girl. So 2 boys will come first and a girl will come second. That was how we agreed. We started praying about it. With our consciousness change, our plans, our vision board, our mission statement on our wall was a reflection of the 3 kids we're going to have, our plans and everything. And it was because we talked about it. And it happened for us. It was because we talked about it. If we didn't talk about it, we will get into marriage and we'll start fighting. So you want 3 kids, you want 4 kids, and I want 2 kids. And those are some of the things that actually, come up or cause problems at the beginning or early, part of the marriage. Another thing was finance. We talked about finance, and the agreement we had was when we started talking about it. Good thing was we had the same mindset, and that's why when you have similar values, it's easy to agree on some things.
Right.
Yeah.
People will say opposites attract, but similarities remain. And those similarities that remain are in your values, in your core values and principles. So it was easy for us to agree to say, as far as finance is concerned, I don't have my money. You don't have your money. We have our money. It doesn't matter who earns more or who doesn't earn. Both of us have it. As long as we're in this marriage together, nobody has anything. We both have everything. And that has actually helped with our, in the way we handle finance. It doesn't matter who holds the money. We know it's our money. And that mindset has always been there. So, and then we looked at it, okay, who is more financially disciplined? She is, so she's the one who has the money. So if today she decides to go to another country and stay and leave me for 1 month, I don't have any so it's about those agreements at the beginning. So we had all of those conversations. So it was easy for the first few years of our marriage because we had talked about all of these things. We had agreed, we had had disagreements, and it was as if it was a smooth sail because that's what a lot of people do. They don't have in-depth conversations around these things. So the first 5 years, they're trying to figure themselves out. They're trying to find out how these things will work. And for some, they don't handle it very well. And for some, they handle it very well, but it's a lot of crisis, a lot of pain, a lot of scars, and disagreements and all of that. So I think basically that was what, happened for us. So first 5 years, first early marriage, smooth, smooth because In fact, it's been smooth all the way. Let me use that word. And it was because we talked about these things. Have we been having conflicts? Of course, we have conflicts, here and there once in a while, but they are not things that shake the core of what we believe as far as our marriage is concerned. There are surface things that we can always deal with, and then we move on. So I think that's how it has been, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not sure I have anything else to add because we pretty much covered it. But, as you were talking, I just remembered there was a movie that we saw together, and I think we saw it before we even got married, Fireproof Your Marriage. And there's a song in that movie that stuck with me. And, the first line of that song says, "Love is not a place to come and go as you please. It's a house we enter in, then commit to never leave." So sometimes I reflect on that. So it's not a place to come and go as you please. You're in it. You enter into that place. You lock the door behind you and you throw away the key. And he said something else about agreeing, and having all of those disagreements before we got married, because we had those conversations. That's really very important. And it still boils down to the fact that we built a friendship, before we got married. Because after we got married, we didn't have those issues because we had talked about. We didn't have issues around money. We didn't have issues around who do, and other things. Even with chores, we agreed that it's our house. There's something that he always says: it's our house. So if it's dirty, it's on both of us. It's not on you. So we just had those conversations. And one thing, and this, I know that many people know it, but I have to say it again just to re-emphasize it: communication. And communication is not just about talking or listening. It's also about how you talk and how you listen. And so and those were some of the things that it's not like we knew it all. We learned those things. We had to learn how to communicate. I had to learn how to communicate my needs, how to communicate my expectations. He also had to learn how to do that. It wasn't just about communicate your needs, tell the person what you know. It's also how you say it. So we had to learn, because sometimes feelings would get hurt in how you communicate. And so we, even in the early, during our courtship, and sometimes when we're having these conversations, sometimes the tone, how he says something or how I say something, somebody will take offense. And so we will come back and talk, okay, why did you feel offended? And so having those conversations helped us to also understand one another, understand each other. It helped me understand myself. He understood himself even better, and then understand each other. And so that really helped when we got married, because if something is about to happen and then we say, okay, let's talk about this thing, and then we sit down and actually talk about it, and we agreed that neither of us will go to bed until we have talked about it and hashed it out and had that conversation. And so I always tell people that there is nothing that is causing conflict in your marriage that you cannot resolve by communicating. It's about talk to each other in love, and remember that you love each other. When we have those conversations, we always, he would say, no matter what, remember that I love you. I love you. So even if I've offended you, you know that it is not my intention, to hurt you or to offend you. And so it's very important that people learn not just to talk about things, but to communicate, how to communicate, because that really helped us.
Awesome. Fantastic. I like what you guys said about, it's not just about talking, it's about how you talk and how you listen. Because sometimes when we talk with couples, you say, that's just the way I am. I like to just say my mind. The truth is bitter. If it's not bitter, then I'm not saying the truth. And then you are hurting the person. And I like the way he kept assuring you, though you may feel hurt because we are disagreeing, but I love you. My intention is that's not my intention. Because sometimes when people are experiencing pain, they begin to doubt the love of the person that they profess love for. And so him assuring you at that moment gives you a reference point that you can compare with. That though this guy sounded like this, but you can feel he just said I love you. And then his actions keep depicting that, reaching out again to connect. Because when people disagree, most times they don't even want to talk. But coming back to the drawing board, they say, okay, what can we do? How can we move on from here?
Yes.
So I'm just saying the principle that you guys even practice without knowing sometimes that, that has really helped you guys. The intentionality that has even probably evolved into a certain level of habits that you just demonstrate without knowing, that's really, really helping. That I want our guests out there, our, what do you call it now? Our viewers are out here to be able to distill and be able to apply for those of them that may not have that. So it's not all the time that the truth is bitter. There's a way you can package the truth that people will accept it and see your intention. That's really, really powerful, very instructive. Very instructive.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there's so much you've said. We have to unpack all of it.
Honestly.
Okay, but let's just carry on. You are Nigerians from different parts of the country. So how have you been able to manage your, your cultural background, your cultural difference?
Okay.
Let me ask first. Chris, do you speak Yoruba? Do you understand Yoruba?
A little bit.
A little bit. That even makes our question more effective.
So, we both grew up in Lagos. And Lagos is like the cultural melting point of Lagos. Yeah. So it's not like the Igbo culture was foreign to me.
Yeah.
Because both from primary school, in secondary school, which I went to a government secondary school, which was another melting point of cultures. So the Igbo, my mom had Igbo friends, who even taught her how to cook Igbo soups, and then I learned from her. So the culture wasn't foreign to me. And I think even for him, because he grew up in Lagos, the Yoruba, surrounded by Yoruba people, the culture wasn't foreign to him either. So, and I'm not such a, I always say that even though I'm Yoruba, I'm not like, let me say it in Yoruba, Injinle Yoruba. I don't hold fast to certain Yoruba cultures. I see myself more as a Zionite, a global citizen, So it was easy for me to, there was nothing about the Igbo culture that was foreign to me. So it was easy for me to understand, some of the things that he values in terms of culture. Of course, there were points where I didn't fully understand certain things. For example, the going home to the village, that's such an Igbo thing. And for me, even though as kids growing up, we used to travel to our hometown, every Christmas, but then I think after I turned 10, we didn't do it anymore. So I didn't understand why you have to travel to the village, why the village is so important, So he had to sit me down and, we had a conversation and he explained, and when he did, it was such a rich conversation because I really then began to understand Igbo people, like why certain things are important to them, So I wouldn't say we've had any conflict because of our different cultures. No, because I don't even cook Yoruba soups in my house. From the day he met me,
that one.
I learned how to cook everything. So he doesn't even feel, like he misses any of his traditional meals. So yes, really, I think it's important, even if, so that's for me, but even if you, as a woman, you haven't been exposed to other cultures, if you decide that this is the person you want to get married to, it's important that you learn. Just learn. Don't go into it, with ignorance or thinking that we've just blended. No, you have to learn what is important to that person in terms of their culture. You have to learn the cultural practices. Some people don't practice all of the, traditions. So know what is important to the person that you're getting married to in terms of their culture. Also know what values their parents, your in-laws, have as well, what is important to them, because that helps to remove or minimize conflict, basically. Yes.
Yeah, the food part is very important. You know, I always tell young people that, see, there are things that you have to deal with every day for the rest of your life. Those things are important. Pay attention to them. One of it is money. Every single day of your lives, you will spend money in your marriage. The second one is food. Every single day of your life, you eat food at home. So there is always a tendency for things like this to become an issue. It's not like it will be an issue every day, but because you deal with this thing every single day of your life, one day it may just be, what are you going to eat? And then she's on her period that day. And then I say, well, I don't know anything. And then she gets angry. So it's not about, the food was the connection because there has to be something, but then it was a mood thing and all of that. But the point is, food was involved because there has to be something every day that you deal with, and food is one of it. So I'm glad because she's a good cook, and she's always had this dream of having a restaurant, and that has made her learn a lot of food delicacies and all of that. So it was easy for us to live together because she already knew how to cook all of the Igbo. In fact, she cooks it more than any Igbo person. So I'm really very excited about it, and I'm happy because, Yorubas don't really have, no offense, but they don't really have. They don't really have, except like we have more options in terms of food. Igbos have more options. So it's been good in terms of our cultures. I grew up in Lagos, so I already have an understanding of the Yoruba culture, so it wasn't a big deal for me. She's not someone who holds strongly to. I don't think there's any Yoruba culture that she really holds strongly to. So if not, would have talked about
respect,
it.
I hope
of course. Respect is a general thing.
No, Yoruba's respect for you.
Yeah,
you've done that.
That's a good one because, of course, we are teaching our kids to be really, respectful. But I think it's been smooth because she wasn't also raised. Also, it's the background she came from. She wasn't raised to hold on to some of those cultures, especially those ones that actually become an issue. So, and the Christian background, dad is a Reverend Father. So the values that I think that also helped us. The values that our parents instilled in us or used to raise us were more of Christian values. So those were stronger than the traditional values. So that actually helped us. So we just grew up to not really. There are some things that we talk about, but every other thing was okay.
Awesome.
Fantastic. I was going to ask, when you were going to get married, there are specifics, particularly for traditional marriage. Did that play a role in anything? Did you have to learn something? How was it for you?
I've attended, a couple of marriages, Yoruba marriages. So I had an idea of what you need to do and all of that. And also think that her dad made it pretty much very easy for me. So he didn't really hold on to any of those things that would be difficult for me. In fact, he would be like, Chris, don't worry, I'll take care of all these small issues you're having. But just make sure you have this in place, you have this in place. And so it was pretty much easy. There were really no, it was actually my dad who didn't really understand some of the things that were happening during the traditional marriage. For instance, you have to have a lot of money to keep giving, for this, for that, for this, for that. And my dad was like, this thing don't finish. So, but then we had already prepped him. So, and then, so it was just basically that. There was really nothing that we would say that was an issue, when we were planning to get married. I had my friends who were also, the ones that were Igbo had to just follow us that were Lagosians to lie down on the floor, and before her parents and all of that. But it was basically fun. Also, I think that we had our traditional wedding and the white wedding the same day.
Okay.
So we had a traditional wedding by 8 a.m. because we're not in Lagos, we're both in Abuja. Now I was in Jos then, she was in Abuja, so I'd moved to Abuja. So we're not in Lagos. So we needed to do everything like at the same time. And I'm glad that we have understanding parents who actually agreed. So we had our wedding 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., the traditional wedding. And then about 10:30, 11 o'clock, we started the white wedding. And the reception was also in the same venue. So we did everything in the same venue. So the church is there. The church has a hall. So, and the church has a guest house. So everything happened there. We were in the guest house. So you know how you have pictures where married couple are in a car and they take pictures in a jeep and all of that. We didn't have those kind of pictures because everything happened. We just walked from upstairs, the guest house, to the hall, and then the church was just there. And so because we had a 2 hours traditional wedding, the Yorubas can take a whole day to do a traditional wedding. But because they knew it was just 2 hours. So they cut out every of those. I was so glad and happy. That we didn't have to go through all of those things. It can be, I know maybe for us Igbos it would have been tiring, but yes, we would have gone through. But I was glad that we didn't have that. So that would have been where we would have had, that's major challenge in terms of how the wedding is done. But because it was 2 hours, they were just cutting short, things, and we didn't have issues basically. Yeah.
So just to recap what you said, a lot of the smoothness that we experienced was also because we talked about the kind of wedding that we wanted. And that's why we had the wedding that we wanted. But when you're blending cultures, you have to, because a lot of people, I mean, it's so important that the bride and groom, because people would say, even we advocate for whatever the two of you agree to. But then, that is not just about the two of you, it's also about your families. That's right. But the first most important thing is the two of you you're coming from two different backgrounds, two different cultures. Even if you're from the same culture, still two different backgrounds. Have that conversation, agree, what type of wedding do we want? Once the two of you have agreed, each person can go and meet their families and have that conversation with their families and say, okay, and then just find a way to shift, compromise a bit here and there to accommodate your families as well, so that there wouldn't be, any drama or conflict on that. But the first most important thing is have a conversation. What type of wedding do you want, both of you? And we did that, and we said, look, there's no time to, let's just do everything in one day and be done with it, So we agreed on that, and we both, had the conversation with our families, and we all agreed to it, and that made it really smooth.
Fantastic. One thing I can see here is that the power of the community, of the people around you, also like what you were talking about, how that, being flexible to accommodate, and then how God just orchestrated it such that you will be raised in Lagos. Then when it was time to get married, whisked you away from Lagos, but you were exposed to the culture of the people, because once you live with the people, you cannot really appreciate them. I grew up in Lagos as well. I'm not Yoruba, but I understand the Yoruba culture. I speak Yoruba so well. I'm able to appreciate the people because I've lived amongst them. I also have the privilege of living in the north because that's where we met. We served in Gombe State. I had the privilege of appreciating the culture. So, it's different when you are looking at a culture from an outsider perspective than when you are immersed in it. You are able to see the good, the bad, and then knowing how to pick the good things and then merge it. So that's one fantastic thing I learned. And something else is the power of having, like the scripture, like a mentor of mine would say that Christianity is supposed to be a counterculture, a culture that swallows up any other culture because it's supposed to predate any other culture. So that's the culture that you guys have built on. So any other thing that doesn't align with that culture, you gradually push away to focus on that core culture. And that's one thing that brought, I'm reacting to what you said, that I am a Zionite, meaning this is the core of how I define my identity. then any other thing is external. And that has really created that, eliminated that, I'm an Igbo man, this is how I want it to be done. I'm a Yoruba lady, this is how it's supposed to be done. And then that kind of created that kind of, this beauty that we are beholding in front of us. Yeah.
Beautiful, really beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, so we know there was a time you were apart in your marriage for a while.
We've been following your stories.
Long distance marriage. Okay, so do you want to tell us how you went about it? How were you able to manage that period? Okay, being apart. I think we should start with Lady Shola. How was it like having to be with a child without him? What was it like?
It wasn't easy. I have to say that. Yes, I'm very adaptable. I can be independent when I need to be, and I can be codependent when I need to be. So I had to put on my independent cap to manage things while he was away. But it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to be without my friend, my confidant, the person that I would come home to from work and tell everything that happened during the day. Even though there was technology and we could communicate by chatting and all of that, but it's really not the same as having that physical presence. It wasn't easy. It really helped to keep the communication lines open, but even that wasn't easy because I was working, he was working, we were on different time zones. And that was another huge challenge because when he's back from work is when I'm winding down for the day and I want to go to bed. And I have to think about, putting Zion to sleep, getting him ready for school the next day, getting ready for work as well. It wasn't easy, but then in all of the difficulty, we talked through it. I feel like the single most important thing that God has given us in this humanity is communication. And that's why a language barrier could stop the people who were trying to build the Tower of Babel, because once you stop communicating, everything begins to end. Everything begins to you begin to grow apart. And so even though it wasn't easy, one thing that kept us together, was communicating. He would send me messages in the morning. I would read them at a much later time and respond, and then sometimes during the day, like even while I'm at work, sometimes he would say, just put on your Skype and I'll put on, let's just, even if you are not talking, let's just be looking at each other's faces while you're working. You can look to the left or to the right of your screen and I'm there. We just had to find those different ways to communicate in spite of the challenges. I'll let you talk about the intimacy part, because of course that was also a challenge. We were apart for 18 months, although there was a point in time when I was able to travel and, spend some time with him because I had a work trip. But it wasn't easy. I have to say that being apart is not an easy thing. You just have to, as a woman, or as a man even, but I'm talking from a woman's perspective, you have to just make up your mind that this is the situation I have found myself in and I'm going to make it work and make sure that everything is in order. Another thing, and this is so important, it's not just about being apart, but about agreeing to be apart. Because while we're individuals, we're also one person, we have a marriage, and then we still have to continue to pursue our goals, our dreams, grow in terms of our careers. And so this was a good move for him at that time. But we had to sit down and talk about it. He would not have left this country if I was not in support. If I did not agree, if I did not say, what, this isn't just about you. I am in this with you. And that was one thing that also kept me going, that gave me strength. Sometimes when he felt like, you know what, let me just leave this thing and come home, especially when I was pregnant. And a number of times he wanted to just come. And he said, no, you can't come back home. Yes, I want you to be here. I need you, but you have to finish what you. I was the one who was able to give him that push and give him that encouragement. I could do that because this was something that we both agreed to. This was something that we both wanted, you know, at that time. So even if there's ever a time when you both have to be apart for any reason, make sure that you are on the same page. Make sure that your spouse agrees with you on that thing, because if they don't, that in itself can cause conflict. When things become challenging for the other person, be like, I didn't want you to go, but you left, you know, and things like that. So it's so important, because that really gave us strength as well.
I think that sometimes God knows. So I think that God knows He has plans for us, and He knows what is actually ahead of us. And that's why it's important that, you know, as we deal with our relationships, we learn to always pray for our relationship and pray for our partners. Before we got married, we had agreed that marriage will not stop your career growth. Marriage will stop my career growth. It doesn't matter what the situation is. We would have to walk away around it. If we find out there are opportunities for you to grow, it's not because we are married, then you don't have to grow. You must grow. We will push ourselves to achieve those things that we really want to achieve. You know, so we already had that agreement. So we knew that, okay, it was easy to make that decision to say, okay, we can actually do this. Because when I got the opportunity to travel to the US, I asked her, I said, hey, what are we going to do? If you say I shouldn't go, I won't go. So, but if you say I should go, then we need to talk about it and see how we can make things work. And even before we traveled, and this is even one thing about self and personal development or growing together as a couple, the two of us had 2 to 3 weeks earlier had attended an 8 weeks course. It's called Alpha Marriage Course. Yes, we were relationship coaches and everything, but we still felt that we needed to still learn some things, you know, and all of that. So we had this Alpha Marriage Course for 8 weeks. The last topic on that course was while you are apart. So that course actually helped us to be able to learn what to do when we are apart from each other. You know, and it was one of the most difficult times in my life because I will not do it again. I will not do it again. Also, we were able to make that decision because we had just one child as of that time. If we had more than one, I would have forgotten. I wouldn't have even thought about it because I would know that it would have been more difficult for her. So we got a house help, you know, that was with her and, you know, could help with the kid while she also goes to work and all of that. And in fact, while we know that God actually orchestrated, it was the same week that I got the opportunity to travel, was the same week they told her that at some point next year, you're also going to go for a training and you're going to spend 4 weeks in the US. And the place was
oh my God.
Baltimore, and I was in Washington, D.C. And it's like 1 hour by train to go there. So she took an extra 1 week, you know, to be with me, and then she went to Baltimore for 4 weeks. And I was after work, I would just take a train and go be with her. You know, and some days my boss would be like, from Thursday to Sunday, just stay, you know, walk from there. And, you know, and it was a hotel that has been paid for 4 weeks. Wow. So we had a great time. It was like, this is the second honeymoon. So it wasn't like we had our privacy, we had, you know, and all of that. So it was really fun. But then we also had plans. We had planned that we were going to have our kids at this time. So we were praying, we were planning. You know, every morning when I pray, I had, you know, the names of our kids on the wall, and I'm praying. And when I'm praying, I'm prophesying, I'll record it and I'll send to her, you know. So, and then you know, I would, any thoughts that come into my mind. So I was always in touch with different means, phone calls, recorded voice notes, everything. You know, and one of the things that actually helped me was in fact, that was when I started going to gym. That was when I actually started going to the gym. I was not really an exercise person. You know, I would just do a few once in a long while. You know, so I was slim, I was okay with it. But then I had to begin to rechannel my energy. Because there were times when I really did miss my wife. And the apartment where we stayed had a central gym. So I just go to the gym and just push irons there. You know? And all my frustrations, I just keep pushing it. So that also helped me. And, you know, I was always praying because I knew I needed that strength spiritually. I always listened to, you know, to tapes, always. You know, it was like my routine every single time. I sleep on tapes. I sleep on, or I just sleep. When I wake up, it's still playing. You know, I say, let it enter my subconscious mind. Let it just enter. My spirit is alive. You know, so I was doing all of those things. And I made sure that every activity that happened in my life that day, we talked about it. You know, so at the end of the day, how was your day? What happened? You know, we'll talk about it. We had videos, you know, so it was a combination of that agreement, that commitment, you know, and also that communication that we had. And also personally, we had to learn how to deal with the distance on our own, you know, had to discover, because sometimes you just have to, based on the environment, you have to discover what to do or how to be able to walk around, how you feel sometimes. And that also helped us to maintain our intimacy. We talked on intellectual levels, different things. I'm on a project, I'll send it to her. We'll have conversations around it. You know, spirituality, we'll pray, we would, you know, discuss God's word. You know, so we're doing everything, you know, together. And if I go for an event, I will take pictures and send to her, make a video, send to her, so she can feel, at least to some extent, you know, what I'm experiencing at the moment, you know. So we just had to look for ways to make it work. And like she said, I really wanted to come back. When she got pregnant, the idea or the plan was, okay, so it's going to be 1 year, 6 months already. You're far gone. So yeah, you get pregnant. Before the end of the 6 months, I'll be back to Nigeria. But then I got an opportunity for an extension for another 6 months. That was why it was 18 months. So that last 6 months was where the issue was, because at this point, you know, I'm like, I can actually leave. I've already completed 1 year. I can terminate this contract and come back. And she'll be like, that was not what we agreed. So because we did not agree, I'm going to hold on. I'm going to stay strong while you finish this. And the truth is that that last 6 months was very instrumental to a lot of things that is happening even until now. So if I had listened to her and come back, I would have lost.
You are listening to yourself.
I listened to myself, or I decided to come back, I probably would have lost those opportunities, you know, because a lot of things happened within that last 6 months, you know. So I'm really grateful because I have someone like her who could be like, okay, you know what, let's just keep pushing. I will hold on, you know. And it's also that commitment and that agreement. You know, there's that emotional blackmail, you know, that you can actually, yes, we agreed before we got married, but now things have changed. So let's just go ahead with what has changed, you know. But he said no. This was what we agreed before we got married. And if she was the one that got the opportunity, I would have stayed back and taken care of our son. You know, I may need more help, yes, but but then I would have stayed back and allowed her to go. You know, so I think those are some of the things that actually, practical things that actually helped us.
Wow, wow, fantastic. I like what you said, that you both of you decided that marriage will not stop each other's dreams. Because I've seen ladies who were flying high flyers as single ladies, and the moment they get married, they just become a shadow of themselves. It seems like they lost direction. It seems that they never do it again, and it's amazing. And I'm asking myself, what's how, you know, that's why Mommy Most book comes into now marriage is not a trap. As this lady entered a trap that has kind of, you know, decapitated her whole dream, how did she become a different person altogether? And I always say to ladies, be careful who you decide to submit to, because whoever you submit to will either be a cap or give you wings to fly. Very important. So you saying that even if she was when I got the opportunity, you'll be more than glad. And her feeling like, I mean, my best friend is not here. The person I can, you know, I can just tap and say, hey, do you know what happened at work? It's not there. She's feeling all the intensity and she's saying, hold on, just stay, just stay. Sacrificing her own, despite the inconvenience at the moment, and saying, just stay, just stay. That's just when, you know, you putting that principle to test, because, you know, people can come up with principles, but when the rubber hits the road, that's when they really know if they can really commit to it. And that's how she has proven it, that when we decided this, the situation tested it, and she said, guy, stay there. Another 6 months. Wow, that's fantastic.
Let me add that. That's why, you know, when I talk about my wife as someone who is extraordinary, who is not common, you know, I try to paint a picture of someone who is on a class of her own. And people may think that I'm exaggerating. I'm not. I'm not. How many women would agree to stay for 9 whole months, be pregnant with twins, and stay for 9 whole months without their husband? How many people would agree to that? And the thing is, in fact, I had planned to come to be at the delivery, you know. But then that week that I had booked my ticket in January, COVID hit. There was lockdown. I couldn't come. So I was not even with her in the delivery room, just like I was with our first son. It was a really painful time for me because I really wanted to be there. I've not been there for 9 months. So I was looking forward to being there, holding her hands, you know, while she delivered our twins. You know, so for me, it's a big and a huge sacrifice. Apart from, normally, even if you don't even have kids or you didn't get pregnant, the sacrifice around just being separate from each other is a lot. Not to talk of going through the first trimester where you'd probably have all of the different drama around getting, you know, being pregnant. And, you know, every time we always talked. In the middle of the night, we would talk. I'll be awake, you know, and we would have to talk. I'll pray for her. I'll play songs for her. And, you know, after even delivering, yes, my mom was around with her. We had, you know, helps that were around, you know, but then she still needed me because at night she would be in the room with the 2 boys. And sometimes the both of them wake up at the same time and they're crying. So I came back 3 months after, you know, she had delivered. So you can imagine 9 months and then 3 months after she had delivered. So it was like about close to 2 years of being away. And that first 3 months was really, really hectic for her because she needed me, you know. So when I say things about her, it's not because she's my wife and I just need to say something sweet. She has shown me that she's different. She's amazing, you know, and I'm really grateful for this gift. And I'll always say it, you know, I'm really grateful for this gift. And that's why I can afford to do anything for her, because she has shown that she has given and sacrificed. In fact, my boss told me that, Chris, you're crazy. I'll never do that. Like, she was like, she would never allow her husband to be. In fact, when I told her that my wife was pregnant, she was like, Chris, you're crazy. Why would you guys get pregnant? You know, so are you leaving? That was the next thing she asked me. She said, are you leaving? I said, no, I'm not leaving. We have agreed that I would stay. She was like, you two are just crazy. Crazy bunch of people. She couldn't understand it. You know, but here we are, you know, we've gone through that phase. The opportunity pushed us ahead. And if we didn't take it, we wouldn't have been here. In fact, our sons came as a result of all of those phases and all of that. So God just knew how to just provide that environment that would help make things happen for us. So I'm really grateful, you know.
Man, this has been an amazing session.
I mean, we could go on and on.
Honestly.
But, we'll just keep it short because we know you have other things to do. But just before we go, last words for singles and couples. What last words would you want to give?
Fantastic.
Last words. You can actually save your marriage before it starts. You can save your marriage before it starts. And what this means is that build yourself. In fact, understand what love means, because a lot of people don't even understand what love means. You have to have an encounter with love to be able to know what love really means and be able to express it effectively. You know, develop yourself in terms of gaining knowledge and all of that, and build character, because character will sustain your marriage. Talk. Have those conversations, those vulnerable conversations, those hot conversations. Because when you are able to deal with these things, look at the things that are core and important to you. Talk about those things. Because when you do, it's easier when you get into marriage. And character is what even helps you to agree before you get married and still maintain those agreements when you guys are in marriage, because circumstances, challenges would come. So it's, you need that character, that principle to be able to say, okay, you know what? Yes, we agreed. We are keeping to it. You know, so I would advise young people to work on these things, and you can actually save your marriage before it even starts.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Like,
just add
go ahead.
2 things. One, know yourself. Know yourself. Know who you are, whether you're a man or a woman. Know yourself. Because when you know yourself, you would know who the best person is to walk life's journey with you. So know yourself, and like I said before, clarify your values. Define, you know, who you want to walk life's journey with. The second thing is you define your marriage. You are the one who will define what you want your marriage to be. Do not define your marriage by other people's standards or by what you see on the internet or by other people's marriages or what society dictates. Can two work together except they agree? Just once you have agreed that we are getting married, both of you define what your marriage is going to be. And you will just see things, you know, things will be a lot smoother. Know yourself, define your marriage. Those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Man, amazing. Guys, we would like people to follow you. So tell us about the books you've written, some of the ones you remember, your social media handle. You know, we're going to put it anyway.
It's in the description.
It's already in the description box. Yeah. Well, tell us one or two books that you've written.
Yeah, so we've written some books for singles and for married people. There's Before You Lead Your Way to the Altar, which I think is very good for single people. There's Lead Your Way to His Heart. There's Lead Your Way to Our Heart. These are two different books that would actually help. We also have some for married people, Needs and Expectations. You know, we have a lot of expectations as married people, but then when we get into it, you find out that, hey, it's not as we thought. So Needs and Expectations, there are also books that, you know, a book that we would encourage people to read. There is Receive Sense 1 and 2, just basic wisdom for relationships. You know, yeah, so that's good too. Yeah, then there's Dear Single Lady at 30 Plus. That one is for ladies who are 30 plus and they are a little bit under pressure to get married, you know, so that's good for them. Then there's Dear Single Man, just practical ways to actually be able to meet that lady that you desire, places, what you should do, and how you can actually get in contact with them. So the books are on Amazon. Also, they're on seller.com. So we can also share that link with you guys. Our social media handles, our social media handles are basically the same thing. Chris Inspire, she's Sola Inspire. So at Chris Inspire or at Sola Inspire, you would see us on Facebook, on Instagram, and then on Twitter.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Man, thank you so much, guys. Please just hang in there. We're going to bring you guys back. Yeah.
All right.
So
wow.
People have been commenting. Thank you so much to our viewers, our lovely viewers. You have been amazing. So if you are new to our channel, you can subscribe for more of this. I don't know if you enjoyed what we heard today as we did,
Absolutely.
but we had a great time with this couple. And thanks so much for joining us again and again. Until we come your way again, it's goodbye from us.